And let's officially get started. So thanks everyone. Welcome to the Working Group Device Management meeting from April 23rd. Remember, this meeting falls under the CNCF Code of Conduct, which basically means be excellent to each other. We do have our standing agenda item for today, which is pretty much Punk's consumable capacity. There is a potential to get a demo today, but we also have the cap itself to discuss. I left quite a few comments yesterday going through it, and I'm scrolling now too quickly for you to see it. It was lots of comments, many of them just small wording changes. Those are easy. But I think I would like to get to the perhaps bigger questions first before we do the demo. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I agree. I can also update it what I changed, and I think I left the last comment to like summarize that what is my understanding that we have to discuss in here. If you scroll down to the comment, I'm trying to list up like the big issues, the API change that I think we need to discuss here, and the race is something that I can work out like offline, but I'm
Yep.
not sure if that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that looks like a good summary. I hadn't actually seen it. I started reading from the top. Um, so yes, lots of it is about naming fields, API design, which is always the trickiest part. Um, but perhaps before we get to that, we need to look at some concepts. For example, for the set policy, it wasn't quite clear to me yet whether the API description was just plain incomplete because it didn't really have any set or anything in it, just a default. So we can go back to that comment perhaps and look at what we are trying to achieve and then try to pick a name. So let me just go back and see whether I can find just top to bottom. I think I looked at the initial ones. Those were just wording changes, use cases, perhaps as a summary for everyone else who's writing caps. In the user stories, if you dive in too many details initially, it becomes very hard to read the cap. And I think that's what was happened here was with lots of YAML examples for specific things. And looking back also at older comments, I think it was very unclear to people reading from top to bottom what those examples do, how they map to the cap. It's always better to just avoid those details initially and just add example YAMLs later on after you have introduced your API. And I think we are changing that now here too. This is one example, the value, the claim policy that is being set here, which is not a word. It's not the word, the verb set. It's a set of things. That I think might even have been the wrong YAML, but I'm not sure. We need to look at the API to be sure. So I'm just going to keep going for a while until something stands out. Yeah, this whole cell device shared. Look, we're now in the use case section. Do we have use cases that really need the ability to select devices based on whether they are shared or not shared?
Yeah, in my aspect, how to say, in my aspect is that in the case that you want, for example, you want the guarantee networks, or you just want like the network without guarantee. I mean the
Okay.
share. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Like yeah, like the device. If you would like to use the host device, it definitely cannot be the shared device. I mean
Okay.
the
Yeah. So,
CNI.
but that means the assumption is that there is a DRA driver which has shared devices, and unshared. This might actually be a partitionable device, which I think you alluded to at some point. So yeah, okay, I can see how this is useful.
Here, I can explain a more specific case, like if you have like four Ethernet and you want to like make it hybrid. I mean, like two of them want the people to share it, another two of them is high speed. You don't want people to share it. You set the share device to false, like configure the second two to false. So if the user want to use the high speed internet without sharing to anyone, they have to set their share property to false.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. So let's keep it. It would be good to have a motivating example here, but even without it, I think it's kind of, yeah, it's when you think about it, I think there can be use cases for it. So yeah, it makes sense. I think what I stumbled on is here where really just where this device shared is being selected, because it was in the device class and the description just didn't quite match. So that's
Just
here. Yeah.
sorry, Patrick. A comment about this field, because if there is a network interface on the host, we can move it uh, to a pod using a resource claim. So the pod can claim this network interface and take it all for itself. But at the same time, another pod could also create a Mag VLAN on top of it. So it can be both at the same time, I would say, sometimes.
Yes, that's what partitionable devices would allow you to define in a resource slice. So you could have one partition that refers to the underlying hardware and says this partition is not shared, and it consumes a counter of 1, which is basically the entire underlying hardware. And then you have a second partition, which is the consumable device, or the device with a consumable capacity, and it consumes the same counter, which makes these two devices mutually exclusive. And then depending on whether one port has already allocated the hardware exclusively, sharing is no longer possible. Or if some other port first takes some capacity, consumes some capacity, then the device is basically in a sharing mode, and exclusive access isn't possible. So combining this feature, this cap here, with partitionable devices basically supports this use case that you mentioned.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
And we have to be careful with wording, because capacity was already overloaded. That was a problem with partitionable devices. So we had capacity in used internally, and we renamed it to counters, but I think we still talk about consuming counters in the partitionable device cap, and now we are consuming capacity. So it's very tricky to be always precise and not confuse one thing with another. But there are only so many English words that we can use for this, so some potential confusion probably is unavoidable. So yeah, this is a wording comment. Claim policy, I think we want something better. Still moving on. Yeah. So another potential confusion is to have requests for devices, and then inside the device request another field called requests. Let's see whether we can come up with something else, but this is the naming thing, which really comes after clarifying the concepts. More wording things. Yeah, another potential name change or alternative distinct attribute versus something that is more aligned, or it's the opposite of match attribute. I basically tossed out anti-match attribute as a potential alternative. Yeah, another wording, Ching, that we can look at when we look at the API. Yeah, so I think rounding is documented somewhere as, yes, the scheduler will round up no matter what the policy is. And I think this just needs to be also in the API documentation. So basically the API documentation eventually will be the thing that a user looks up, say in the Kubernetes website, when they try to figure out how to use the API. They will not go to the KEP to look at additional comments there. So that means that the API documentation, the inline comments, already by themselves must be a complete definition of what happens. So this includes corner cases. Like, does it round up? Yes, I think it does. What if it can't be satisfied? Well, that is a problem in the sense that we may end up with a request that just can't be satisfied. But that is the same that we have also in other cases. We just add another dimension of how a user request might not be satisfied. And the partition level devices KEP might have some text around that that you might be able to copy and paste to describe this risk and the mitigation. But strictly speaking, it's out of scope for this KEP because it's a general DRA problem or a general scheduler problem overall. I think I asked on Slack about, okay, my pod doesn't get scheduled. How can a user figure out why? And I was pointed towards a scheduling simulator, which is a tool that exists, which basically mimics scheduler behavior and it gives the user an explanation. And I think we want something similar, or we want to extend it, but it's, as I said, usability aspect of DRA overall and not a problem for particular KEPs. Yeah, we can look at one policy, and there is a step in it. I basically added as chunk size as an alternative. Nothing controversial, just picking a good name. There was one, yeah, this comment here about capacity claim policy set. So I can't go to the diff to view the whole thing right now because then it wouldn't show my comment because it's marked outdated due to the removal of this line here, I suppose, or this chunk. So from memory, the capacity claim policy set, it only has a default field right now. Was it meant?
It's also have the option field as well. Like in the API, it should have it have option fields and the default field.
Let me see, because okay, yeah. I don't know how I missed that. So yes,
Maybe
you're right.
because of the examples it has is only the default showing. It doesn't have the other options default.
Perhaps that was it. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. It's there. Now it makes sense. I just missed it. Thanks. Yeah, and I think this comment now still applies. Let me go back to my comments just to make sure that we pick off where I just left, and I scrolled a little bit to get you to the diff page. Where was I? Let me just search for yeah, it was. So yes, so yeah, another wording change. So inside the capacity requirements, we have requests, which is exactly how the core resource request type works. We just have this problem with clashing on the request's name. So required is an alternative. Reservation, consumption. I don't know, Lionel, are you on the call? I can't see the participant list.
Yeah, I'm here. Yes.
Yeah. Let's shelve it and look at the see whether we can spend some time on brainstorming or whether we want to discuss or let other people chime in. So I'll just keep going to see whether anything else stands out. Yeah, just for the distinct attribute, it's about semantics. As it stands right now, if you have a device A with an attribute foo where the type is an int, and you have a device B with the same attribute foo where the type is a Boolean, they would be considered distinct according to this wording. But I think we want the type to be the same and just the values to be distinct. Does that make sense?
But it's coming from the same attributes, right? I don't know. I mean,
yeah, but for the match attribute,
yeah.
we require the type to be the same for a match to evaluate to true. And here I think we want just to invert the meaning of the values, not of the logic for the type.
Yeah, I think the implementation is telling to use the same functions that the match, you just like add the not in front of them.
Yeah, but when we satisfy the distinct attribute. So the example that I had was really about type is different. Well, perhaps you're right. Perhaps it's just simpler to do a mathematical definition of it, and for this particular corner case where devices are defined inconsistently, just treat it as a match or as satisfied.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a match. It's not a match attribute. It's but the constraint is satisfied also when the type is different. Okay, I think I can be convinced to drop my comment. I'll add a remark later. Yeah, there are implications to this cap for the array drivers. Not only do they need to publish devices differently, they also need to check in node prepare resources differently. And I think we should have a section on that so that the array driver authors are aware, and also update our Go doc for the helper code as part of the implementation.
Okay.
Yeah, the scheduling enhancement, I think that is where I stopped, because it really just showed a bunch of copy-pasted Go code, I suppose, from your prototype. And that's way too detailed. No one is going to review that code, or if they do, the the CAP might easily become outdated with the actual code. So we should just summarize where we are making changes, what they roughly look like, and that's it for the CAP.
Yeah, thank you so much, Patrick. This is my first CAP, so I don't know how much I should detail in there,
Yeah.
but I will simplify it. Yeah.
It must be reviewable, and the Go code just isn't, and that's fine. I mean, not having it is fine. There's always going to be another round of reviews when we actually look at the implementation, but that will not be in the CAP phase. Yeah. Okay, so here's a new suggestion from Lionel that I hadn't actually looked at yet.
Yeah, maybe Niels can explain a little bit more about the idea. Yeah, I'm
Right.
also not sure I understand fully. And
If you create virtual devices two virtual devices on top of the same device, in the status, you will get to claim for it, right? And there's the status of the device that is a map, and that has the driver, the device, and the pool has a key. But if you claim it twice, you will get the same keys.
Yeah.
So
I see the problem. Yeah. So if we just number it, is that within the claim, or does it need to be globally unique?
Patrick, I'm sorry. I wondered, like, the case that Lionel mentions is like you create the virtual device in advance, right? And in that case, the
No, it's about the let me see whether I can
the
find.
allocated result, right? But
No, I need to look at the type for just a second. Let me try to find it. So this, I think, is the struct that Lionel was thinking about.
right.
If
If
a device
you
has
check the
been
usage
allocated,
of this,
yeah. So if we try to identify the status or what it applies to, we currently have driver, pool, and device. And device itself is no longer unique, because we may have multiple users or multiple requests satisfied by the same device.
yes.
We need here a fourth field that basically says, for this consumption of that device, we have conditions, data, and network data. But it's not clear what that fourth field is, what that fourth identifier can be in the context of a shared device.
Okay.
So this.
Like,
Please continue.
yeah, like okay, I now somehow understand that you want the unique fields to identify the allocation result, right? So maybe the UID is more work than the index, because like if the first request got the first share got index 0 and the second one got index 1 and the first one is removed, the next index will be 2 or zeros. This will be more confused. So maybe it's better to use the UID instead, if you want to just make it unique.
It depends on how we number. So if we go with an index within a resource claim, I think an index can work, because we are basically we can enumerate all the requests satisfied by the same device and just assign a unique index. that this here is one result. The other is the allocation result.
But this can be in the difference resource claim, right?
No, this is all inside one resource claim.
No, I mean the same device can happen in multiple resource.
Yes, and then the index is only unique inside one claim, not across claims.
Okay. So we
So
want the Unix not just only inside the claim.
yes,
What we are going to use this index, by the way? I mean, what is the use case of this index?
it's to cross-reference basically the allocation result with additional status provided by the driver.
Additional state. Okay.
So
can we use the
this-
requests name? You see here in this device request allocation result, we have the request, driver, pool, and device. Maybe we can.
Inside the request, you might have n devices. So it might ask for in one request, you might ask for 5
okay.
devices, and they might all be satisfied by the same shared device. So I think that would still not be unique enough.
Okay.
I think if we just add, so here you see the same 3 fields that we have right now: driver, pool, device. If we add a 4th field here, which is the index, and we add the same, I hope it's below. If I'm, is it above? I don't know. Device. It was somewhere. I lost track of whether it comes before or after. But anyway, I think if we add the index, the shared index, then it would be sufficient, and it would be possible because it is something that really, as I said, the scheduler, when allocating a claim, can calculate and just store, and that's it. And we are not reallocating, so the index pretty much would remain static. Now that I'm saying reallocate, I wonder if we ever allow it, then a UID might make more sense. I'm not sure. But either way, it can be a unique ID generated by the scheduler with no particular meaning other than I'm taking a one subset or some part of a shared device, and I'm just generating this UID, and that's it. Oh, I think I'm actually leaning towards a UID.
Okay. Yeah. I will just. I also leaning to your idea as well, but I will put the index as optionals. For
Yeah. It's always good to have. This is one of those things where the alternative section in the CAP can be useful to capture discussion for future reference.
Okay.
So you could just say in the alternatives, instead of shared UID, use a shared index. And then as argument why we're not doing it, you could say that at some point we might reallocate, and then an index in the allocation result might not match anymore what this driver previously used in the status for the shared devices or shared device. What do we call them actually? Usages? I don't know. But yeah, this is where it would go, not necessarily in the main cap. The main cap proposes something, perhaps giving an argument why it's this way. Well, actually, you can do both. I actually have done both. It all
Just
depends again. Yeah.
No, continue, please. I have a question after.
Yeah. Whether to put it inline in the cap or into alternatives depends a bit on reader expectations again. If it's not obvious why the API is the way it is, then it definitely makes sense to put it right next to the definition. I went actually one step further in some of my type definitions. I actually put comments into the Go source code below or next to a field explaining it for the developer reading the type.go file. That wasn't done before, and it was a problem, and it is a problem. We later found Tim Hawkin at some point asked me to remove those extra comments because he was kind of assuming that they would end up in the user visible documentation, but they don't. If you put them as standalone comments that are not field comments or struct comments, they are just there in the source code, and no one is going to see them unless they read the types.go. But it provides additional context, and that often also for core DRA later turned out to be useful because we were looking at the stripped down types.go that didn't have my comments, and some of the previous design decisions were not obvious anymore. We had to go back to a PR discussion to find those comments again. So long winded story. You might just define your API with shared UID and in a comment say, this is not an index because we might support reallocation and reallocation could invalidate indexes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You do that.
Yeah. I think we are at the bottom. Nothing really, to me at least, stands out as something that is fundamentally wrong. Lots of API wording choices to be made. But I think you've captured it pretty well. Then, yeah, looks good to me.
Thank you, Patrick. Lionel, are you going to ask something?
Yeah, thanks. I have a question again about this shared UID, because it will change the key of some maps in the status. Is this okay to do this?
If we define the additional key as if not set, it's empty, then I think it's fine. It's addition.
Okay.
It's evolving our API, but it doesn't break the API. So clients who previously used only the free fields, they clearly need to be updated. But that's always the case if you add new fields. We've had long discussions about evolving APIs recently in DRA, and I think the conclusion was that traditionally Kubernetes has just added new fields and expected clients to adapt. It's not ideal because you can get into situations where clients that have not been updated do horrible things, like in a mutating pod webhook, they drop fields that they don't know. This is a recurring problem. Or they don't support the new semantic and do something wrong, or in this case, they could get confused. If they just use free fields to index in a map, and now we have a result where the fourth field is non-empty and needs to be considered to disambiguate, then this old client will not do that properly. But I think that's unavoidable, and that's okay. Okay. We have 20 minutes. I'm not sure we can do a demo now if you want to.
Yeah, this will be very quick because I already set up the environment.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, can I share a screen or I need permission?
I can make you the admin or co-host.
Okay.
Yeah, and I need to. Am I still sharing? I'm probably sharing on the other screen. No, I'm not. Well, anyway, just take over. Yeah.
I hope you already see my screen. Right.
Yes, it looks good.
I'm sorry. Actually, I should open the one with the thing. That's yeah. I have yeah. I think I have already shared that I make the POC demos are inside here. Basically, I just plug the DRA example driver, and make some edit because the last weeks is it still not support the beta v1, so I have to update the Go mod and so on and implement PPAD node results, those stuff for compatible versions. So I list up the README here, and I also implement inside the Kubernetes in my fork as well. You can find more detail over there. Not there, but yeah, okay. Anyway, yeah, and I create the image, the node image, so you can try on the x86 platform. It should be supported, and it's maybe already cross-platform. So in my demos, I have already installed the Kai cluster with that platform, and also already done like the step to deploy the DRA driver. So I can show like the current status. This is like washing all the pot. And if you go to the resource slides, you can see what I listed up there. So you should see the one that I asked for the Nick. Let me check. Yeah, the one I have to add to device. One is the share device without like the consumable capacity. It have capacity, but it doesn't have a policy to consume it, so it is considered as a non-consumable. And another one that is have a claim policy that it can be shared later. I don't know what is the best name. I mean, I also thinking about the consumption policies, but it's actually not the consumption, but it's related to claim. That is why it's come up with the claim policy. But I'm also good with the consumption policy as well. Yeah, by the way, this is a two type of the device. One is just only the share device. Another one is the share device with consumable capacity. Okay, and based on that one, we can create the device classes. Let's see. I have created 3 device classes. Okay, maybe not that one. Yes. Yeah, there's the one with the examples, and I have already created 3 of that. The non-share device, like to select the device without the shares, maybe better to see. Yeah, this is like the way to explicitly saying this, okay, the share device is false. And the order is like the QoS one is the one that you have to set the share to true, and to be more specifically to select the one with the share is for the QoS model. This is for demo. If you don't have this one, you can select the one that is have a QoS and another one that's and also another one without the QoS as well. The last one is the has just only the share and also the Nix model, what the difference one you can see is have a similar thing. And the demo that I would like to show is the same one that I list up in here. The 2 demos. One is like we are going to request the simple share device from the first class from this class. So it will not limited with the numbers of the capacity. You can create at any numbers of the resource claim. I can show the first. This is the first demo. That is we will define the resource claim templates as that we want the share device, which is this class, and we will create 2 pod that request the same template. So yeah, with this one, you can see that we can have 2 pod created and running and already results. So if if we get the resource claim in this namespace, we will see 2 of that. Let's see, one of them is like you can see the results that you will get this device with the share property to true. This I think is will change to the share unique ID when I update it. And the other one is also as you see is we'll get the same device because we forced to select from the same class. So you will see that we will get the same nick 0 for both of the claim. This is the first one. Actually, we can also like go with the second one directly. This is a QoS aware. That here, I define another template that going to select the class of QoS awares one, and with the policy, the request that we want the bandwidth 5 gigabyte bandwidth. Okay, and then we create 3 pods that link to the same template. So these 3 pods want 5 gigabits are bandwidth. But as you may already notice, we have this only 10 gigabit device. So if we create this one, you will see one pod will be pending because we don't have enough bandwidth for it. Okay, if you see the resource claim in the second one, see one of that, you can see that is how the consumes capacity bandwidth 5. So the same one will be for another one as well. I will omit it. Let's try to delete one of that. Okay. 0 maybe better. Okay. Okay, when we delete another one, we will get schedules because is now have enough numbers of the bandwidth. So yeah, this is very simple demo, but this is how we expect the consumable capacity should support it. Yep, done with the demo.
Thank you. Well, it looks like once we have sorted out the API, you will be able to follow up with an implementation fairly quickly, which is always encouraging. Yeah, as I said, I think this looks good to me. We are in a pretty good shape for 134, and we are very early now. The biggest problem will be that among the reviewers, we will need to sort out the API naming question, and then need to get it validated. So I'm kind of on a path towards API reviewer, but I can't approve APIs. I can make suggestions, and then ultimately we need to figure out whether it's Tim Hawkin again who reviews the API or someone else. And that basically kind of locks us towards a certain API. If we can get that done in the CAP phase, then the implementation just needs to follow the CAP, and there's no need to discuss it again. It doesn't need to be done at the CAP phase, but it just helps. So we should try to get this into our review queue for an API review early on.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. May I have another question? It's related to what I heard from Lionel. Do I have to separate the CAP for the distinct attribute? I mean, whatever, like, or I can include that it here.
I think you can include the distinct attribute here in this CAP. We don't need to be overly granular with caps and feature gates.
Okay.
Yeah,
because I think we need this because we are going to share how to say, because we share device, so that is why we need this distinct attribute. So it's somehow related.
Yeah, you have the use cases here, so it makes sense to have it here. We tried to do 2 things with partitionable devices. We also had mix-ins in the same CAP. That also it's similar. It's basically 2 things that could be separate caps. They were in the same cap, and we tried to get that implemented in 133. And the only reason why we split out the mix-ins was that we didn't get the implementation done in time. Otherwise, it would have been under the same feature gate. And if as you have it implemented and it relates to your use cases, I think it's fine to have it just under consumable devices or consumable capacity.
Thank you.
Yeah. Perhaps a bigger question, now that I've mentioned it, is the focus of your CAP consuming capacity, or is it shared device?
It's related. I mean, first of all, I want
Yeah.
can be share, and then when it's share, it must be like how to say guarantee at some point that you cannot share like infinity. You have to have something consumable. So that is why it's hard, because at the first it's the same concept, but actually the main one is to share. And
Yeah, I was thinking that too, in this first comment that I think I left about introducing the key concept first. I think the key concept in your CAP is actually that devices are shared. And it's not the consumable capacity. So we might still rename the entire CAP from DRA consumable capacity to DRA shared device. And it's just a thought. We don't have to, but now is the last time that we reasonably can rename it. Because after the merging the first PR, we have the directory created with the name DRA consumable capacity, and renaming it would be a big churn in the repo. It's still possible, but it would be not good.
yeah, understand. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, consumables capacity is also fine to me. I mean, like, because the motivation is we want something share, and is we want it to guarantee, but actually the main features that introduce it in this cap is like to make the capacity be consumables as well. So yeah, and also the share one is may conflict with the partitionings because it's also share the device as well, but I don't know, share is like a big like the
Yeah, that might make consumable capacity is a bit more specific. I think that's true. Yeah. Okay. Let's just keep it.
Yeah, thank you.
I got a different question about the demo and the cap. So here in the demo, you were consuming part of the bandwidth of the host interface or the exposed interface in the resource slice. But if a claim doesn't specify the bandwidth, how would it work in that case?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This will be share infinity. I mean, like it's like a Mac VLAN that you didn't guarantee anything, and you can create like 10 of the pod to the same Mac VLAN with the same Mac VLAN.
Right, but then if another claim is claiming 5 gig of this NIC, then it should not be scheduled because it will not get guaranteed 5 gigabit, right?
No, it will be not considered. I mean, like if the device doesn't have a claim policies, but the user make a request, it will treat as the same as like a minimum requirement for the how to say for the device. Like if you user request 5 GI is just like okay, it will give you one device with the any device that have a capacity set more than 5 GI but is not consumed. Does that make sense to you? I mean, like it will like minimum requirement if like it's not consumed. So the user request will be like okay, they require these numbers, but is independent to whether like the device is consumables or not consumable.
But the first interface that doesn't specify the bandwidth will not get allocated anything, right? I mean, he will get allocated part of this device, but not part of this bandwidth. So he can get the full bandwidth if it consumes. If it used
I
a lot
think
of network.
Lionel is right. This is not clearly called out in the CAP. It goes towards what I said about how is rounding handled, how is defaulting handled. I think this deserves a little bit more explanations in the API. Starting in the API definition, because I said users need to understand what they are getting and what it means to specify something in their claim request, and what they then will get and what they are guaranteed to get needs to be a bit more verbose and more explicit.
Yeah, I will add also the descriptions about the requirements on the device that doesn't have the guarantee. And of course, the route up I have already listed up because it's already in your comment. I already listed up. So yeah, I will add descriptions about both of that.
Yeah, thanks. I will try to help you with this. Thanks.
Thank you.
This is what happens when other people look at your wording. They do not necessarily know what was in your head when you wrote it, so they will have odd questions that may seem obvious to you, but it sometimes literally often wasn't written down. So this is part of a review process. It's perfectly normal and can be sometimes a bit painful, but we just have to go through it. And
yeah, I thought this is helpful. I mean, like even me myself, like I lost 1 month and coming back is I already forgot about it. I've already thought of it.
And that's normal. I look at code that I wrote and I'm completely lost. I don't even recognize that I wrote it sometimes. So yeah, comments are absolutely crucial, and as good as detailed as we can make them, the better. Okay, we have a few more minutes left. Any other topics, last minute words from someone? We basically dedicated the entire meeting to it, but I think it was worth it. We have some new participants. I missed asking for it at the beginning. Usually we sometimes do a round of introductions, or we could sometimes, if I think about it, we could have done introductions. Min, do you want to say something?
Hi, Patrick, and I actually work with Pang for the Martinique CNI staff. So she invited me to the meeting, and basically, I'm just watching what's going on with DRA, because later on we may integrate that one into the Martinique project.
Okay, yeah, welcome.
I'm from Red Hat.
Okay, well, thanks. So is that a thumbs up, or Pang, do you want to close the meeting with some final words? I think it was a thumbs up.
No. Thank you so much, everyone, for like joining and for giving me opportunity for doing the demo.
Yeah. Masahura, I think you were perhaps trying to say something. Yeah, now you can. You're unmuted. I don't know whether you were trying to say anything, but now would be your turn if you want to introduce yourself. I don't think I have seen your name before.
My name is Masaharu Kanda. I'm from NTT. So I'd like to join to the discussion about DRA and multi-network. So please cooperate in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So I think with that covers all participants, that covers the topics, and with that, I can thank you for your time and the good discussions that we had, and see you again in 2 weeks. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.